All right, so today I want to talk about this black girlfriend effect. You know, I seen some videos and I read a lot of comments and listened to people's perspective on it. And I didn't agree with none of it because it doesn't make sense to me. I feel like the time period that we live in now, nobody has the tendency to think for themselves. You know, whatever narrative is created and is pushed out, and the majority agrees with it, then everybody agrees with it too. You know what I'm saying? You might think something different, and you see a comment that got 10,000 likes, so you change your thought process to what that person says. You know what I'm saying? So I want to talk about the black girlfriend effect. To me, it doesn't make sense. To analyze, it's just a black woman changing her white boyfriend to have nigga tendencies or nigga characteristics. And I know that's going to be like, no, that's not what it is. That's not what it is. And so I want to talk about the root of the problem with black women and white men. So before we came to America, once we were in Africa, the black woman and the black men, they were a mogul. A strong black woman behind a strong black man. No, that strong black woman was standing on the side of that black man. That's why every statue or monument created before our time of the kings and queens in Africa, they are always standing beside each other. You never see her standing behind him or in front of him. They always stood with each other. In fact, Asar and Aset, they were the king and queen of the two lands of Kemet that we call Egypt. We call it Egypt now, but the original name is Kemet, Kemet, or Kush Kemet, meaning the black land. Asar's brother Set, which is where the name Satan derives from, he would get jealous because his brother Asar would leave his wife Aset in charge of the kingdom and let her control it while he voyaged around Africa to meet all our other ancestors. So all people understood that there is no black man without the black woman. So when I hear black women say, look throughout history, black man has always done black woman bad, that's not true whatsoever. You know what I'm saying? You actually have to do research and dig deep into the ground of the hole that has the word truth on it to understand. And you know what I'm saying? But so understand so that's when we were in Africa. When we came to America in 1712, there was a letter written by a man named William Lynch, or call him Willie Lynch. That's what the term lynching, when you get hung, that's where that name comes from. So in 1712, he created this tactic, this manipulation process, or this mental breaking process of all melanated people. If you don't know what melanin is what makes our skin color the color it is, not black or brown. It's melanin. That's what makes the light skin to the darkest shade of black. EUMELANIN, melanin, melanin. And white people have pheomelanin. That's what makes their pale skin, or the peach kind, or the nipples pink and the lips pink. That's what they possess, which is the worst kind of melanin, scientifically speaking. But in 1712, William Lynch wrote a letter to the slave owners of Virginia, I believe, that couldn't control their slaves. So I'm going to point out the key details of this whole letter because it's very long. He has the introduction, then it's paragraphs, the let's make a slave, the breaking of the African woman, the Negro marriage unit, the language that you use. You know, it's a lot. So I'm going to point out the key details. And I quote, I have a foolproof method for controlling your black slaves. I guarantee every one of you that if installed correctly, it will control the slaves for at least 300 years. My method is simple. Any member of your family or your overseer can still use it. I have outlined a number of differences among the slaves, and I have these differences and make them bigger. I use fear, distrust, and envy for control purposes. Take this simple little list of differences and think about them. On top of my list is age, but it's there only because it starts with an A. The second is color or shade. There is intelligence, size, sex, sizes of plantations, status on plantations, attitude of owners, whether the slave lives in the valley, on a hill, east, west, north, or south, have fine hair, coarse hair, or is tall or short. Don't forget, you must pitch the old black male versus the young black male, and the old versus the young, vice versa. You must use the dark-skinned slaves versus the lighter-skinned slaves. put the black female against the male, and the male against the female. You must also have white servants and overseers to use this trust on all blacks, but it is necessary that your slave trust and depends on you. They must love, respect, and trust only you. Okay, that's the introduction to the letter. But I know you're saying, well, what does that mean? You know, he's just telling you what you should do is not happening. Now, this is when the breaking process comes, and this actually happens. This is a part of slavery that we never hear about and we don't talk about. And this is the most important part. These are the key words he said. Take the mind, but keep the body. Break them from their natural state. You have to break a nigger like you tame a horse. A nigger and a horse are both dangerous in nature. Why? Because they can adapt to it and survive. This is what he writes in his letter. It's in black and white, and it's embedded into the United States of America's Constitution. Throughout the letter, he always says the black woman and the black infants, or he says the nigger woman and the nigger infants are the most important. Why? Because the black woman is the mother of the nations. She births the black man and the black woman. She's the most important. And she also raises the children. The children are important because they're innocent. Whatever you teach them at a young age, that's what they will grow up and be. So, in order for them to get to the black woman, they had to destroy the black man, physically and mentally. And this is how he did it. Well, this is how they did it. Take the meanest and most restless nigger, strip him of his clothes in front of the remaining male niggers, the female, and the nigger infants. Tar and feather him, tie each leg to a different horse facing opposite directions. Set him on fire and beat both horses to pull him apart in front of the remaining niggers. The next step is to take a bullwhip and beat the remaining nigger males to the point of death in front of the female and the infant. Do not kill him, but put the fear of God in him, for he can be useful for future breeding. Now, what does this mean? At a time, the black man was the black woman's protector. He was a provider. He was the dominator. Not in a dominative sense where you do what I tell you to do. No, but he was the head of the family. So this black man being physically and mentally broken in front of the black woman, which is why he said do it in front of the black woman, because now she's psychologically broken. Now her protector is gone. Now her man, he's gone. What can I do with, you know what I'm saying? What can I do without him? Take the female and run a series of tests on her to see if she will submit to your desires willingly. Test her in every way, because she is the most important factor for good economics. If she shows any sign of resistance and submitting completely to your will, do not hesitate to use the bullwhip on her to extract that last bit of bitch out of her. Take care not to kill her, for in doing so you spoil good economic value. When in complete submission, she will train her offspring in the early years to submit to labor when they become of age. Understanding is the best thing. Therefore, we shall go deeper into the area of subject matter concerning what we have produced. Here is the breaking process of the nigger female. We have reversed the relationship in her natural uncivilized state. She would have a strong dependency on the uncivilized nigger male, and she would have a limited protective tendency towards the independent male offspring, and would raise male offsprings to be dependent like her. Nature had provided for this type of balance. We reverse nature by burning and pulling a civilized nigger apart and bullwhipping the other to the point of death, all in her presence. By her being left alone, unprotected, with the male image destroyed, caused her to move from her psychological dependent state to a frozen independent state. In this frozen psychological state of independence, she will raise her male and female offspring in reverse roles. For fear of the young male's life, she will psychologically train him to be mentally weak and dependent, but physically strong. Because she has become psychologically independent, she will train her female offsprings to be psychologically independent. What have you got? You got the nigger woman out front and the nigger man behind and scared. This is a perfect situation of sound and sleep economics. Before the breaking process, you had to be alert, on guard at all times. Now you can sleep soundly, for out of frozen fear, his woman stands guard for us. He cannot get past her early slave modeling process. He is a good tool, now ready to be tied to a horse at a tender age. By the time a nigger boy reaches the age of 16, he is soundly broken in and ready for a life a long life of sound and efficient work, and the reproduction of a unit of good labor force. By the time a nigga boy is 16, he's willing to give his life away to work. What's the age that a teenager can work in America? 16. In some cases, 15. But white children are working too. They never were meant to be, and he explains that later on in the letter. By throwing the nigger female savage into a frozen psychological state of independence, by killing off the protective male image, and by creating a submissive, dependent mind of the nigger male slave, we have created an orbiting cycle that turns on its own axis forever, unless a phenomenon occurs and reshifts the position of the male and female slaves. He says, our experts warned us about the possibility of this phenomenon occurring, for they say that the mind has a strong drive to correct and recorrect itself over a period of time. If I can touch on some substantial original historical base, and they advise us that the best way to deal with the phenomenon is to shave off the brutes, mental history, and create a multiplicity of phenomena of illusions, so that each illusion will twirl in its own orbit, something similar to floating balls in a vacuum. And here it goes. Crossbreeding niggers means taking so many drops of good white blood and putting them into as many black women as possible, varying the drops by the various tones that you want and letting them breed with each other until another circle of color appears as you desire. He said, a white man can go around and have sex with his black women, as many black women as they want, to make any type of color, because we possess color with that eumelanin. And that still happens till this day. European soldiers go to Africa and train in Africa, and they rape and have sex with all these black African women, and they leave them there and they have babies and they have all these different children, or what Malcolm X would say, these little mixed babies running around. And so a black woman can never say again that all the pain and suffering that black women have ever experienced in the world was not because of a black man or black men, period. And still to this day, Africa is still colonized. Slavery still exists in Africa. They want to throw that up. Oh, slavery still exists in Africa today. Well, who's the enslavers? The Asians and the Europeans. And in Africa, in Swahili, they have a word called a brony. A brony means the white man, or a foreigner, but basically a white man. And I seen posts, people was like, these African women was like, oh, when you dating a brony, you changing a brony into this, into that. With the Madu Necher, the origin of why a word is the Madu Necher. The word Obroni means the destroyer. Think about that. Now it means white man. Before it was white man, it was the destroyer. This is what these then Africans would call white people, the Obronis, because all they did was came and destroyed and raped and stole. If that's not a mental illness, I don't know what is. And this is when it comes with this black girlfriend, a black woman effect. The more posts and comments I read, the more I got mad. And the only reason I got mad is because I know the power that a black woman possesses, that a black woman doesn't even know. She doesn't even know her essence. I know the power a black man and a black woman together possesses. I know what it creates. We came from a black woman and a black man. The first people to mate were black women and black men, which is why we are here. Why would I want to date outside of my race and split up my genetics? So I don't like black women because that's my type. I like them because they are made for me. Black women are made for black men, period. That could be an opinion, it could be a fact, but it's the truth, and it's also backed by science. So the more comments and things I read, it was like a debate, like a competition of black women versus black men. And I just told you about the breaking process. That's the root. Okay, now I'm talking about the problem. The root is we will put against each other so we can, it's divide and conquer. We will put to go against each other so we can destroy ourselves. Now this is the problem. The problem is every comment I read, it was bashing black men. And black men weren't accepted, but black men are the problem. There's a book written by an author named Carter G. Woodson, and in this book is called The Miseducation of the Negro. Here reads the black man being educated and denouncing his race, or a black woman, period, a Negro. He says the educated Negro will become our new enslavers. God damn if you weren't right. So when a black man gets with a white woman or a Mexican or Asian, he does nothing but bash black women, and he disrespects her, and black women take that to an offense. So they bash black men back. It's like a competition. So every comment I read, it was black man this, black man that, black man this. And black men do the exact same thing, and that's where this separation makes it, and it puts us against each other. And I know for a fact that there is more black love than there is interracial love. But speaking from me being in an interracial relationship, talking to people that have been in interracial relationships, I made it in the previous video. I talked about the birth rates of pheomelanin people declining. And in order for them to survive, they have to mate with us since we have the dominant gene and they have the recessive. So if they mate with us and their children possess our melanin, then that will make a whole new generation. That will create a new dynasty where they can live on. So mulattoes will be the new white people. And it's nothing but lust and fetish. That's all it was when I was in a relationship. Something that's natural is made to be. With a black woman, I can say something that a black culture understands, and she can get it. But with a white woman or a Mexican, I would have to tell her, I would have to teach her. I don't want to make you into something that you're not just so I can be happy. I want you to already be that. That's what attracted me to you. So this black girlfriend shit don't make sense. It's like you changing him into something that he wasn't for your liking. And it's not about, she's trying to be the rule of the relationship. No, that's stupid. That's immature. So the solution would be for black men, black women to get together, sit down and talk, sort out our differences, and come with a resolution. You feel me? So I said I know the power that a black woman possesses. And black women don't even know what they possess. They don't know the essence of who they are. You can ask 10 black women on the streets right now, do you know who Henrietta Lacks is? Maybe 1 or 2 out of the 10 would know who she is. But this is an example that shows you how important black women is to the world. Henrietta Lacks died in 1951. She was experimented on by Johns Hopkins Hospital. She was experimented on, and without her consent, and she died. I believe her family just sued. She died in 1951, and her family just sued maybe 2022, 2023. They were just now getting some type of justice. So a white man experimented on her without her consent, and she died. But they noticed that they found that her cells were still multiplying after she was already dead. Okay? A doctor would go to Tuskegee Institute and study her cells. Months later, allegedly, he caught polio, and with every disease that exists, they've used Henrietta Lacks' cells. They use her cells to study all these diseases. It's called the HeLa cells. They still use it to this day. Those are Henrietta Lacks cells, a black woman's cells that died, and they continue to multiply. And the first black woman to go to space, she took Henrietta Lacks' cells to space, and they found that her cells multiplied even quicker in space than they did on Earth. When you go to space, you lose that relationship with gravity. So you have, in the pelvis area of your legs, they have problems when they come back from space. The white man had problems. The black man had problems, but not as much as the white man. The white woman went and she had problems, but not as much as the white man, but way more than the black man. Then when the black woman went, she had no problem. When I'm reading all these comments and these views, and they saying black women is so beautiful and black women is the blueprint, black girl magic and all this, that exists because a black man and a black woman made it to have you. If you're so proud of being black, how can you mate with the recessive gene and split up and kill your genetics? So when your child comes, the person that will live on, they won't have that same black girl magic that you have. No matter if you teach them, scientifically speaking, genetically speaking, they won't have it. It will be split. So then I read a black dude say, why would we be intimidated by white boys trying to imitate us? And the black woman was like, they're not imitating you. They just got touched by a black woman. And, that's what it is. It's imitated. They wear their hat backwards. The first person, not the first person to wear his hat backwards, but the man that stamped that fashion trend was Ken Griffey, the baseball player from the 90s. He always had his hat turned backwards. It was like, why did he do this? You know what I'm saying? That's so ghetto. That's so this and that's so that. But he didn't give a damn. He always had his hat backwards. And he stamped that, and then it came to hip-hop. And now everybody's doing it, but nigga, that's a part of black culture. You feel me? We have always got our beard trims. In the 70s, we had the sideburns, we had the beards, we had the Teddy Pendergrasses and the Jim Browns and the Jim Kellys. They were that statement. They made it like that. White men didn't used to do that. It's certain shit that we started that they did not do because it was seen ghetto, and they found it was elegant, and they started doing it. In the '60s, it was a group of black men that started wearing elegant streetwear, and then it came to entertainment, and the Temptations would wear it, and the Delphonics, and the Four Tops, and the Intruders, and the OJs, whatever. That was all started by us. I seen this black woman say, "These white men ain't wearing no baggy pants and gold teeth." Those are two different type of black men. So we possess something that's swagger that's natural for us because it's in our genetics, it's in our bloodline. It's not something that we try to do, it's just something that we do, and they envy it. Why do you think they love hip-hop so much, and they love black women? Italians hate black people, but love black women because it's a lust. A black woman's like, I went to Italy and I couldn't walk down the street without getting complimented every 5 minutes. Of course, because they want to have sex with you, because they want to get into your bloodline, and I mean that ass so they can have you melanin. A white woman literally stood in front of a black man and said, I want to date a black man so my children can have melanin so they can be prepared and protected. This nigga stood right there and said, I like that. Now come on, bro. Ignorance. Maya Angelou said, we know our ignorance more than we know anything.